Right, hello, and welcome back to episode 28 of Talking Baldocks with my brother,
Matt Baldock,
and I'm Neil Baldock, and this is Talking Baldocks, and yeah, each episode is introduced differently.
introduced differently because there's been a little bit of a gap. Because obviously I wasn't blessed with your presence on the last one. We had the standing guest, Freddie Baldock.
We did, yes, we had,
He did a sterling job.
yeah, fantastic episode. I think it's been quite a popular one actually.
Yeah, it has. Don't take that in any certain way that the popular one where you're not here.
Um, no, I won't. Don't worry.
Fine.
I was gonna give you some shit, but then I thought it's probably
You
not
couldn't
great
think of
to
it. You couldn't
tear
think of
you and
anything.
Freddie down.
You couldn't think of anything to say. So that's fine. Right. So, as we do just generally talk Bulldogs, we'd never planned this beforehand. However, being the 7th of May, I've dated it there, so you've got to get it out in a reasonable time. Um, I think it'd probably be a bit remiss not to talk about the Renters' Rights Act
Mm.
and kind of what that means for agents. Because I have heard. Listen, we'll start this by saying we're big fans of agents having lettings businesses. That's probably the hill we'll die on, is that we don't believe you're building a business unless you have something to sell. Um, Fair enough to say. I will caveat that bit. In my old age, I'm getting a little bit more understanding, saying unless you're running another vehicle on the side, you need a retirement plan. However, I've had a few agents kind of go with the Renters' Rights Act coming in. Oh God, I'm glad I don't do lettings, or people thinking even about getting out of lettings. And I just think it's a very short-sighted kind of viewpoint because for me, the Renters' Rights Act has actually brought in lots of opportunity rather than lots of pain points.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think, yeah, we're big advocates. Obviously, we've got a big lettings business. We've sort of built our business around that, and we're big advocates of that. Um, what I would say as well, though, is I don't think it's a business to be toyed at. If you're going to go into lettings, um, you know you go into it, and there's different levels of worth to a lettings portfolio, and I think that's something we should talk about as well, because quite a lot of the time people come and say, oh, I've got 10 properties that I manage and it's worth X amount, and it's really, if you've got 10 properties that you manage, it's not really worth more than a drink. There's no
Yeah.
systems, there's no team running it. So I think there's varying levels, but I absolutely agree with you. I think there's two things to consider. One is that you don't want it to be a massive distraction if you are like just a pure sales agent, a one man or woman band, and that's all you kind of do and want to do. But there are vehicles now, and plenty available, to be able to have a lettings business and not have to do all the compliance and everything else. And now, like going back to the Renters' Rights Act, it's the biggest opportunity I think we've had as agents for a long, long time, because landlords need us now more than ever. And that is starting to show in the market, with lots of more let only landlords being open to a conversation about management, because they simply don't have the knowledge to keep up with this sort of ever changing legislation.
So just quickly, just to go back to something because you said we're a big lettings company, but I just want to make it really clear we didn't just wake up one day and have this lettings company. That's by design, right? Because we always knew we wanted to build something to sell. So sometimes I think, oh, it's easy to talk about lettings because you do lettings. Well, no, that's been the plan. We had that foresight in the early days. That's what we wanted to build. Um, but just talk to me a bit more because you gave a really good soundbite there. But like, just a bit more about what the opportunities are for agents in a bit more depth, a bit more detail, and kind of, yeah, why agents should be looking at this as an opportunistic time rather than oh fucking hell, this is more aggro. Because, sorry, I will let you talk, but some people are trying to compare it to like when we had the tenant fee ban. And actually, I don't think the tenant fee ban did necessarily bring loads of opportunities for agents. Apart from it made us realise we had to charge more, think on our toes, and adapt a bit. But me personally, I feel this one brings more obvious opportunities.
Mm. Well, yeah, I mean, I think any regulation brings opportunities, and it drives out people that are either not doing it very well or are fed up. So so it increases the amount of acquisition opportunities. But just on a day-to-day basis, in terms of your lettings and management book, it brings opportunities, because essentially running a lettings business now is it's a professional services business. So you should really be likening yourselves to accountants, to solicitors, conveyancers. It is a professional services business. Um, and professional services business charge for their time, they charge for the work that they do, but they're required. So people need those businesses. I mean, look, you, as I always say to landlords, can you go out? Can you file your own accounts? Yes, you can. Can you do your own divorce? Yes, you can. Can you write your own will? Yes, you can. But should you do any of those things? Probably not, because you could fall foul of tax laws, just all general kind of laws and all of those sort of things, and end up in a bit of a sticky mess, or leave if it's related to your will, leave your family in a sticky mess. So um, people can do these things themselves, but they shouldn't. And there's so much legislation now. I think for me, the real opportunity is not in the headline stuff. So, if you go and talk to a lot of landlords, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I know that Section 21's abolished, or I know that fixed terms are now abolished," but they don't know the intricate details. And what I would be doing, or what I do as a letting agent, what I'd advise other people to do, is start getting really granular with the detail of legislation, because the way legislation is written is not plain and straightforward. It looks it, but you really have to look at the intricate way things are worded, and that's where landlords don't don't do that. They just see whatever's in the headlines. They read the kind of the headline stuff, but the devil is in the detail. And so, for instance, with this information leaflet that's got to be sent out by the 31st of May, everybody, lots of landlords are saying, "Oh, I've sent that out. I've sent them a link to it." You can't do that. It's got to be a PDF, and it's got to be sent via email or in the post. And so those tiny little details are where people really fall foul. So that's where I see a massive opportunity for agencies, is in providing a professional services business and educating their landlords. And you've got to challenge them. When they say, "Oh yeah, no, I know about that," you've got to sort of challenge them on those details, because you're, number one, you're helping them to do the right thing, even if they're not going to use you. But the more conversations you have like that, people will start saying, "Bloody hell, this is a minefield. Like, how much is it going to be for you to manage this?"
Hmm. Yeah, no, most definitely. And I think the an interesting point there is you kind of having the conversations. I think probably like with any messaging, you need to say it more times than you really you think you do. So just give a couple of examples. We've got two friends of ours who are managed landlords of ours. Um, I was speaking to one just a little bit before the Renters' Rights Act came into and he was talking about his tenant. He said, "Oh, but they've got this much left on their tenancy, haven't they?" And I said, "Well, no, you do know they haven't, because that's come to an end." He goes, "Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean?" And then he instantly went, "Oh, look, you take care of that anyway, don't you?" I said, "Fine." And I got a text message from another one of our friends a couple of days ago, just saying, "These new rules that came in a couple of days ago, are you looking after me on that?" We're like, "Yeah." And we put out loads of content, right? We've emailed them all, we've spoke to us, so we've told. So if landlords that are in your funnel and your managed landlords, if some of them are even missing it, the amount of kind of let only do it yourself landlords that don't know about it is huge. So
Mm.
I don't think there's any don't just put out one kind of Facebook post or one Instagram post. You have to continually be talking about it, and talking about it till you probably think you've spoken about it too much. Because yeah, there's a lot of people out there that still don't know the rules and the regulations.
Yeah, 100%. And to become an expert in something, you don't talk about it once. As you say, you repeat it over and over again, and you spend a lot of time on it. And so, yeah, I mean, I would be making lots and lots of content about the Renters' Rights Act, and the fact that it came in on the 1st of May and we're now on the 7th of May doesn't mean we're 7 days in, we don't talk about it anymore. We're going to be talking about this for a long time to come, because it is here. And look, you've got to think, it's been years and years and years since you had to start protecting deposits. It's been years since the tenant fee ban now, but yet we still have conversations with landlords who haven't protected the deposit correctly or have charged a tenant a fee that they shouldn't have done. So, you know, this is going to go on for years and years that we're going to have to be advising landlords. And for me,
Yeah.
there's just never been a time where we're required more, and we're starting to see that now. You know, we've got a lot of our own clients who have historically been let only, very successful company owners. They might have their own PA or their own team of staff, so they've always let them deal with their rentals. But now they're realizing, you know, and they're also coming to that age where they're like, I want some more free time. I don't want to fall foul of all this stuff. I don't want to be getting a £7,000 fine here, there, and everywhere. Actually, for me now, it's time. Your management fees are worth our investment.
Mhm. Yeah, no, most definitely. I think you've got at least a good year's worth of content out of this, and again, content in different ways. So, to give an idea of what we're doing, so we're obviously doing a lot on social media. We're publishing blogs. We've got email marketing going out. We went and spoke at an event the other day, didn't we? So obviously you can put on your own events, and we've done a webinar, of course, but also who else is out there in your town or in your city or your village hosting events? Can you go and speak at somebody else's event? I think that's a good
Mm.
thing to try and get into as well.
Yes, definitely. You want to be positioning yourself as an expert on it, because what will happen is, as you've said, so even some of our own landlords, we've emailed them everything about it. We've run webinars about it, and then we've got people coming back to us and saying, "Oh, are you serving that information leaflet?" Even though we've told them we are. But as you say, people read things from different sources. So if they're getting it from somewhere else, they're just going to see that headline, and then if they see you as talking about it all the time and being that expert in that field, then when they want to know more information about it, they're going to come and ask you that question. Um, so yeah, I think, and one thing I will say, because there's been loads of like talk of like, oh, you shouldn't be scaremongering people, and this kind of stuff, and I agree you shouldn't. And anyone who's attended one of my talks on it will see me right at the very start say there's nothing to panic about as long as you seek professional help. So it's not a scaremongering tactic; it's an education tactic, and you can't scare someone by presenting them the facts. Like
No,
if they're scared by that, sorry about that, but that's all we're doing is educating people on the facts and what needs to be done and how we can help them to mitigate those risks.
yeah, no, that's the point I was actually going to make because the last thing we were at when you were speaking to the room, you actually used that line. You said, "I'm not here to scare you. I'm just here to give you the facts." And that's what people want, right? It's kind of tenuously similar to when you have to tell someone that their buyer's put out of buying their house. You're just telling them the facts, right? You're not there. You're not deliberately trying to upset them. You're just presenting. I always use the doctor's analogy. A doctor doesn't go, oh well, this that. The doctor just tells you what's going on and how they're going to fix it. And exactly that. As an agent, we should be saying these are the facts. You know, if you don't if you don't take care of your body, you're going to get ill. If you don't do these things with your property, you're going to get fined. And the fines are real now, and the fines are big, and they're going to happen. However, this is what I can do to fix that for you, to cure you, basically, to make sure. So as long as you're presenting someone with a solution, and if you're doing it educational, it's like, well, this is actually what you can do to make sure you're safe. But a lot of the time now, there's so much of it that I think you're right. A lot of landlords who are serious about this, I think, they understand their time is worth more than kind of the bit they'll pay a letting agent to look after it for them.
It's definitely, yeah, and it comes down to people's appetite for risk. So the risk involved in renting property out has just increased because there's a lot more legislation that you can fall foul of, and a lot more fines available if you do. So if you educate people over that and give them those facts, then they can just make a decision on their appetite for risk, I guess, um, and decide whether they're happy with that risk and they want to keep self-managing, or actually no, that does seem a bit more than I'm willing to spend my time on now. Okay, yeah, let me get you into help. So that's all it's about, really. And landlord education is a fantastic way um, of attracting leads. And also, it's a very high leverage way of attracting leads because once you've done it, if you record it, as we do, our webinars and seminars are recorded, and then we run a Facebook advert for people that couldn't make it to then download it, and so we get their details. So it's just a great way of generating leads and positioning yourself as an expert in the market.
Yeah, no, exactly. So just going back to kind of the start we were saying about with agents not wanting to do it, and we'll come on to maybe their fears of it and what solutions are out there. But you mentioned something about levels of value. If So it's not something to be toyed with, right? Much like we don't think actually being a landlord now is a hobby anymore, and that's what we think we've seen is a lot of accidental landlords exit the market, but now the serious ones are still here. We don't seem to be seeing an exodus of landlords now. I think that's happened. Whoever was going to go to a certain extent has gone. Um, so there are still landlords. So number one, if you don't do lettings at all, is there any point? Because are there any landlords out there still? Well, we've just had one landlord buy 300 properties and give us 150 of them. So there are landlords out there still buying, right?
There's definitely plenty of landlords still out there investing.
Okay, fine. So yes, there is a market for you. But for those that think, oh, this is great, I'll get 10 under management and sell it for £500,000. What I always think really to have you want to get to around that 50 under management mark, but you might think it's more or less. I don't know.
Well, there's no answer. It all depends on many, many different factors, because everything is, depends what's worth it to someone. Someone to give us 10 properties, um, but we've got to look after them. We've got no relationship with them. Probably it's not worth like a massive revenue multiple. Whereas if someone comes along and says, I've got 100 and it's run by a member of staff, and so you can just take it on and plug them into your systems, then that is going to be worth money, because frankly, every time we acquire something, I don't want another job for myself. So
Cool.
that's and again, but that changes at the time of your business journey as well. So like, now, yes, we would acquire 50 properties, 10 properties. It'd just be different prices we paid for them. But we'd probably rather acquire 150, 200, 300 at a time, because we're accelerating the size of our company now. And we'd rather buy something with a team involved in it, because they can fit in with our existing team and all run it together. But if you're just starting out and you get offered 20 managed units, then that'd be a good kickstart for you. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. But what I'm saying is the value goes up the more systemized you have that business. I think the camera's frozen, which is
Sure.
quite.
Okay. Fair enough. I can still see you.
Oh, good. You completely froze.
No, I've got you. Every now and again you go slow and then really speed up, and it's quite funny. But apart from that, it's okay. We're pushing on. We're on the home. We're on the home. Let's get to it. So agents, the thing. Well, I do like the idea. And again, yes, it's monthly income, but for me, the big thing is your company's worth something at the end. So that's the bit. It's a long game, a lettings business, right? But that's something, that ultimately, if you want to retire, that's what's going to get you there. But let's say well, I don't know anything about the legislation. I don't know. Well, there's two things, right? They can either hire an expert, so hire someone that's better than you, which is the golden rule of hiring anyway. You should always try and get people that are better than you, so you get yourself out of a job, and as more of a business owner. Or obviously, they can give the property management to another company.
Yeah, that's right. So there's loads of different ways to do it now, and I think that's what we're saying is like, don't don't toy at it. Don't just do one letting, because it's just not worth it. But if you're going to decide, yeah, I'm going to get into lettings, I'm going to build something of value, then get into it. Go after as many landlords as you can. But like you say, you don't have to run it yourself. You can either employ somebody to do it, depending on how big you want to go. You can outsource the management. You can outsource various different parts of it. You can even outsource just the client accounting now. You can just outsource your maintenance. You can outsource the whole lot, so you only deal with the upfront stuff. And we do that for quite a few agents now, where yeah, they're just a letting agent essentially. So they just find the tenant, advertise the properties, find the tenants, and then hand it over to us, and we handle the whole lot for them until the tenant leaves, and then we give it back to them and say, right, can you relet that? So there's lots of different ways to do it without having to deliver that back office and compliance piece yourself.
Yeah, no, of course. And of course, if anybody wants to set up a lettings business and really doesn't know where to start, we're available to go and, we run training courses on that. We can go into their business and obviously help them set up, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, so if you're sitting there thinking, I do, I'd like it. I get that I can hire someone, but I don't know how to start. We're happy to, we can parachute into the business, set out the bare bones of it, and explain to them exactly how it happens. We've been doing it for 15 years now. So yeah, I don't know what we're doing. So I think to wrap it up, really, for me, the bottom line is lettings isn't scary. Um, you just have to have the right systems and processes in place, or bring people in that can do that for you, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, because yeah, and again, it's what's your, I guess, what's your risk appetite as a business owner, isn't it? And do you want to invest in it and go large and build a lettings team from scratch and go for it like that, or do you want to sort of ease yourself into it, just bring on the lets and hand it out to a provider who can take care of all of that for you? Um, but ultimately, that is really the way you're going to have a company of value is based on your lettings book.
Good stuff. Fine. Okay, mate. Well, as it happens, I've got a lettings valuation to go to shortly. So,
Give me a
it's
call
been
for some. Give me a call for some advice.
yeah, yeah. I'll tell them they need to phone you. So great. All right. Well, listen, good to chat as always. I've been Matt Baldock. He's been,
Neil Baldock.
and that was Talking Baldocks.